Okay guys, here we are for another lesson where I'm going to be playing an engine, and I wanted to do a second lesson like this so quickly because first of all, I see that a lot of you found value in our last lesson where I played this other engine, Antonio, which has a 2000 rating. So I told you guys that if I defeated this engine, I was going to play next a 2100. So we're gonna play Alexandra. I think that a lot of you also know her, so it's gonna make it even more fun. So let's see how it goes. So I'm gonna be playing two games also. I'm going to choose the white pieces and then a game with the black pieces. Now, another reason why I wanted to have this lesson is because I want to see if we get a King's Indian defense game. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to hit play. And guys, one thing very important, 2100, I think we're going to see a huge difference. So for these games, I really have to take my time. I cannot play quickly because the robot is going to let me know that this is not 2000 anymore. So anyways, this time I'm also going to start with e4. Let's see what she plays against e4. And if she does e5, notice how she's taking more time. Now she's playing e6, the French defense. And of course, if I want to keep it consistent, if I want to practice what we have been learning so far, I'm going to be using the King's Indian attack. So I'm going to do d3 instead of d4. For many years, guys, I played d4. And if d5, I like to do this line with knight d2, but that's something else that we're going to learn in the future. So I'm just going to do d3, King's Indian attack, then knight d2. And we have talked about how you could get into the King's Indian attack with knight f3 as the first move. But anyways, we're already in here. I'm just going to do knight f3, then g3, bishop g7. I know it looks a lot like the Vienna variation that we played in our last lesson, but you're going to see that the plan is different. All right, so now rook e1, and we got exactly, guys, to the position that we got or that we learned in lesson number, I want to say 79. 79? Yes, 79. So rook e1, and now let's see. Okay, queen e8. This is a little bit weird. We typically don't see queen e8, but let's try to take advantage of that mistake. Now, guys, first of all, we know from lesson number 79, I think, that we're going to continue with e5, then h4, and so on. So if you're not familiar with these plans, go back to that lesson, that way you learn how to play this. Now, I myself, like I've said before, I like to insert e takes d5, and sometimes I do e5, but here I think it makes even more sense because the rook is going to be on a semi-open or even open file where the queen is. So that queen is going to be very awkward on e8. Now, with that said, this is just going to make it even better for me. But even if they had done something like queen c7, sometimes I just do e takes d5 anyway. So e takes d5. And then the idea is that, look, that's an open file. My rook is already on the same file as the queen. It cannot be good for the black pieces. So now, this is what I do. Typically, when I take on d5, I follow up quickly with pawn to d4. Now, in this case, if they take, notice that my knight cannot capture back, but I have something else in mind. When I do d4, pawn takes, then I do knight b3, and that's going to leave me with 3 pieces putting pressure on d4, meaning that I'm going to collect that pawn, and then I leave them with an isolated pawn on d5. Just like in our last lesson, I'm already thinking about that pawn structure. If I leave them with an isolated pawn, I'm going to put pressure on it, and our plan should be pretty straightforward. So anyways, now I'm deciding if I should do d4 right away or if I should do knight b3, since the defender of that pawn is pinned by my rook. So you see, that queen e8 move is already giving them a hard time. So let me just try knight b3, opening up the bishop, putting pressure on c5. All right, not safe because now that bishop on e7 is not pinned anymore, so that's fine. So in that case, I'm just going to continue with d4. They didn't take, and that's okay. So now I need to make a decision. Do I want to take? Do I want to just ignore it and maybe develop the bishop? Well, I think I'm not going to take, guys. Instead, I'm going to develop the bishop, but I need to make a decision. Do I want it to go to e3 and maybe put more pressure on it? Or do I want to go to f4? Well, if we really think about this and we consider both options, if I consider pawn takes, followed by bishop e3, I'm going to be putting pressure on that pawn. So that's going to be a pawn that needs pieces to defend it. Well, they can only push, I think, c4 or d4. So if I do pawn takes, followed by bishop e3, forcing them to do d4, then this bishop is going to be very powerful on this diagonal. So again, guys, this is a point in the game where I know that I would take some time to make the right decision, but here I think I'm going to be comfortable with pawn takes pawn, and I get them hanging pawns. So now it's just a matter, these hanging pawns could be really good for them. Notice how they have a lot of pressure on the center, but I think we're going to be able to put pressure on those pawns enough for them to advance one of them and then leave weaknesses. So I'm going to go bishop e3, putting pressure on c5, provoking, oh no, I thought I was going to provoke d4, but that's not happening. So maybe it's time for us to now go knight d2 and put pressure on that knight. If that knight is gone, this pawn again becomes weak. So let me just go knight f2 d2. They took. I'm going to take with the queen, so I'm improving the queen, connecting the rooks, and I'm still putting pressure on c5. You see, guys, we got what we wanted, which is opening up that diagonal for the bishop. So now I have a very powerful bishop, and they have to be very careful with what they do next. Now, I need to move the bishop. I could go to f4, or I could even go to g5, and if that dark square bishop is gone, it's one less piece that is going to defend the weak pawn. So bishop g5 makes sense. Another candidate move that I don't think is going to work, but it's worth looking into, is bishop takes pawn, pawn takes, knight takes, putting pressure on the pinned knight. But of course, that's not going to make sense. So let me just go bishop g5, keeping it simple, and trying to remove that bishop, guys. Look, they did not take it. And remember, it's not about the pieces that we trade, it's about the pieces that we leave on the board. So if we leave them with a bishop that cannot protect the pawn, that's going to be good for us. So let me just take the bishop, and now this pawn only has the queen so far to defend it. Now, is there anything I could do to put more pressure on that bishop? Well, f4 might be interesting, trying to do f5, but I don't think that's what we want. Can we put more pressure on the c5 pawn? Not right now. Well, what if we just double up the rook? So this is already middle game. I like my pawn structure. They have an isolated pawn on a7. These pawns could be trouble. So I'm just like in our last game, I'm already thinking if I could get into the end game and try to capitalize on their worst pawn structure. Well, let me think about this. There's no way for us to put pressure on c5. Maybe I just double up my rooks. Yeah, let me just go rook e2, getting ready to bring the other rook. So there we go. Now h6, I wonder if this move makes sense. Now guys, it's a little bit difficult for me to just try to trade this bishop, this really good bishop, but I really like to put pressure on that pinned bishop that they have on e6. All right, so I think that's a free pawn. So let me have the pawn. Yeah, now we got the free pawn and we got a way superior position. Our rooks are doubled on the only open file on the board. We could get to the 7th rank. We definitely have the superior position. Now, that free pawn comes on top of the isolated pawn that they already have. So let me see, you know that the plan now is simplifying the game. If I could just simplify the game, we're going to walk into an endgame where I have 3 versus 2. So this king and pawns endgame is won. It's just a matter of now carefully simplifying the game. So let me see how I do this. Can I do queen f4? If I go queen f4, I cannot go to a 7th rank because of the knight. Rook e8 seems interesting, but we just cannot do it now. So let me just think about this. Now, if I go queen f4, what if they did c4? Well, I guess we could do knight d2. That's the only move that I have to be careful with. So queen f4, pawn to c4, knight d2, d3. Yeah, that's not something I want to happen. If I could improve my knight, no, I just can't. Queen e2, c4. So guys, you see, this is a position where I know exactly what I need to do. I know my plan, but I need to be very careful. If I give them an edge, everything could just get difficult for me, and it's not so easy. If I let them do c4 and d3, it could be a little bit difficult for me. So c4 is coming. If I could move my knight and do b3, something like that. Now if I do queen f4, c4, knight d2, pawn to d3, pawn takes, queen takes. Yeah, I don't think that's what I want. So maybe I have to be prophylactic and do something like knight c1. If c4, I have the pawn, the knight, and the queen taking care of d3. But what do I do then? I cannot be just passive. So let me think about this. This knight, for some reason, is just giving me a hard time. I cannot do rook e5. I cannot do rook e7. So, oh wait, I think I just realized something. If I go queen f4 like I wanted to do in the first place, and c4, knight d2, if they do d3 after, then my queen and knight are going to be putting pressure on c4. So that should be fine. So queen f4 is the move, guys, I think. Now c4 should be oh no, I thought c4 was coming, but since they didn't do it, I'm going to do then queen e4, trying to simplify queen. So let me see. All right, so do we take? Well, yeah, give me the queen. And now what are they going to do after rook e5? So if I go rook e5, putting pressure on the knight and putting pressure on c5. So knight b4, take. Yeah, we should be winning this, guys. Okay, so that was expected. Now let me take this pawn, isolated pawn. Well, I'm gonna take this one too. Yeah, I'm gonna take this one. I don't mind about this fork because I could easily get away from it by trading one of the rooks. All right, so what is going on? I was not expecting this, guys, to be honest. All right, let me just go to the 7th rank, putting pressure on this pawn, but more importantly, I want to get both rooks on the 7th rank. That's it. At this point, the game is over. I know that we're winning this easily. Rooks on the 7th rank. Guys, remember, rooks like to be on open files, and that's because we want to use that open file to penetrate to the 7th rank. Now, one rook is really good on the 7th rank. Better than one rook on the 7th rank is two rooks on the 7th rank. So now check. And let me see. Now I could take another pawn, but I'm going to try to do rook h7 in order to do checkmate down here. Are we going to be able to? Let's see. All right. So look at this. They're not letting me. There are two plans for me to do now. I could try to bring this knight into the game. So if I bring it closer, I know that I could get some checkmate, but I need to be careful because I don't want to get checkmated myself. So I'm thinking I could take another pawn here, and this is going to be extremely easy to win after, but I don't want to push it too far, guys. We can see that my king is not that safe, so we have to be careful. So I'm thinking rook g7 check, king has to go to f8, and then when I go rook d7, I'm still threatening the checkmate, so it's going to force them to just trade rooks. And guys, at that point I have my rook here attacking the knight, the same knight that is defending the rook. So most likely they have to do something like rook f3, and they have to be in trouble here. So check. Then I go here. Yeah, they had to do it because I was threatening checkmate, I was attacking the rook. Now the question is, what are they going to do about that knight? Ooh, so they want to take my knight, take my rook, and I take their rook. Guys, are we winning or losing? We're winning by 2 pawns. Of course, it makes sense for us to simplify the game. Now, whenever I'm in a situation like this, if you remember our lessons on Desperado, in between moves, I know that I could do something like check, get away from this attack, and only then take. However, if I did that, they're going to go king e7, and they're going to attack my rook anyways. So is it worth it? Well, I don't think so. I think that if I just take, they take, their pieces are going to be pretty inactive, and my king is going to be getting closer to the center. So this should be good enough. Now, another candidate move is taking the pawn, but then they take ours. That's not what I want. I want to eliminate any counterplay that they could have. Now, before I do my move, which I think is going to be king takes rook, let me consider something like attacking the knight. Well, if I did that, they could easily just defend it. Nah, I'm just going to simplify the game, guys. That's it. And now, look at this. Kings, knights, and pawns endgame. We're winning by 2 pawns. It's all about getting our passed pawns. But one thing to keep in mind, guys, we need to activate the king. Even if we're up by 3-4 pawns, activate the king. It is really important. So king coming to the center. Then to the center. 2 squares away from the knight, important. Diagonally from the knight, also that way the knight cannot put us in check. Now, is it time to activate our knight? Well, let's do it. Okay, so now, yeah, let me push the pawn. Okay, so now b3, and then our knight is going to go after that pawn. There we go. And guys, 2 passed pawns. Now look, the knight is 2 squares away from my king, so I know they cannot do any checks, any forks. So this is it. Now I have to be careful with them getting this pawn. So let me see, b4, knight f3, they take the pawn, b5. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna have time. So yeah, let me see. I want to make sure, guys, that I want to make sure that if I go here, I want to make sure that I go to the square where this knight cannot come back and put me in check after. So if I go here, after they take the pawn, knight here, they could do some check and try to get into the game. Well, not with this move. All right, so I'm just trying to stay away from checks. Okay. Okay, so I think we're getting a queen. Now look, I don't want this knight to get anywhere. Like automatically I'm thinking of going diagonally from it because I know there are no more checks and I'm keeping him away from these squares. But truth is that I'm gonna go right next to it. There's no way they could do, yeah, there's no way they could go after the pawn and then fork me or anything like that. Okay, so give me my queen. Guys, this should be extremely easy to win. Now, I don't want to blow it. So let me just keep it safe, check. Let me bring my knight into the game and my other pawn is going down there. So let me see. Simplification, if I get rid of that knight, that's it. Now, guys, there's so many ways to finish this. I'm just gonna push the pawn. And whoop, let me just do this then. Then I get the queen. And this should be checkmate in 2 moves. So we go check and checkmate. All right, guys, so there you go. We were able to win this game one more time based on the pawn structure, nothing else. So if we go back quickly, after we started with the King's Indian attack, notice that we did not use Bobby Fischer's plan. It's very sharp and everything, but it made sense here to keep it simple. We just took, then knight b3, putting pressure on c5, and especially now that we had that pin on the bishop. So d4, if they had taken, well, isolated pawn, we were going to put pressure on it afterwards. So b6 happened, now we take, hanging pawns and isolated pawn. Guys, I'm already thinking of the end game. So bishop e3, knight e4, let me get rid of that knight, it's defending. Let's remove those defenders. And this is the perfect example for you to understand that concept. We are up a pawn, our opponent has weaknesses, we want to remove pieces because first, they cannot create any counterplay to get us in trouble, but also the less pieces they have, the harder it becomes to defend pawns like these ones. So anyways, traded, d4, let's simplify the dark square bishop because these pawns are defended by that bishop. And then guys, we just activated the rooks, we put pressure on the pinned bishop. Remember this move that they did, queen e8, and they did it very early in the game, the queen remained on the e-file, and that's what's got them in trouble. After we were up the pawn, simplification, we simplified queens, and then we simplified everything else, guys. I know that this engine did not play perfectly maybe, but still by keeping it simple, we were able to outplay it. All right, so let me just do new game. So same engine, and I'm going to choose the black pieces, and hopefully it plays d4, that way we can play the King's Indian defense. Whoop, there we go, d4. Guys, I don't like to do knight f6 right away because they could do bishop g5. And even though it's nothing complicated, it's one more thing that you have to memorize. So I'm just going to do g6 and then knight f6, you see? So knight f6. and bishop, you see bishop g5. Now it's not so annoying to me now because after bishop g7, if they take, I keep my pawn structures healthy. I could take with the bishop. If they had done it before and my bishop is not ready to be on g7, I had to take with the pawn. I get double pawns. Not a big deal. It's perfectly playable. I just don't like it. So bishop g7. Then it looks like they're going to do e4 and sort of transpose into a pdx. So let's see, d6. No, c3. Well, yeah, let's see. It depends on where this pawn goes. If the pawn goes to e4, it is the same thing as if g had done e4 is the very first move, and this would be like a pdx. If this pawn remains on e3, then it is going to be more like a queen's pawn opening. So look, c3, it doesn't look like they're going to do anything aggressive on the king side. So let me just castle. And now e3, there you go. Yeah, queen's pawn opening. I'm playing my king c9 defense setup. And now I need to make a decision. Do I want to do knight b2 d7? Do I want to do bishop g4? Well, I think I'm just going to do knight b2 d7. Very flexible move. Oh, look, e4. Guys, this is pretty bad that they did e3 and only then e4. It's like wasting a move. Now it's like if we had the white pieces, like we are one tempo ahead. So I'm going to do e5. But first, let me put the question mark here. Are they going to take, move away? Okay, bishop e3. Now, I really want that bishop, so let me do knight g4. And if I remove that bishop, they don't have the pair of bishops anymore. There you go. And guys, look at this. Doubled pawns. Once again, it is very important to pay attention to the pawn structure. So pawn to e5. We know in the pdx, the king c9 defense, we want to break on e5. If they had taken, horrible, because then we leave them with double pawns that are also isolated pawns. All right, so I really want to do f5, but I'll be helping them getting rid of their double pawn. So maybe we just go. Guys, I'm just inclined to do f5. I really want to capitalize on the pawn structure, but you know what? Let me do it. The thing is that, like we learned already in lesson 42, I want to say, double pawns also give them a semi-open file. So let me just do f5. I think my king is safe if we open that diagonal. Now pawn takes. Now look at this. If I take with the knight, I'm going to be the one with isolated pawns. So I'm going to be now the one with hanging pawns. In the game that we just played, my opponent had the hanging pawns. Now, like I said before, hanging pawns could be really good. Look at all of this control that we have thanks to the hanging pawns. So now, do I want to go king h7 or king h8? Well, both could be tricky. If I go here, this diagonal could be used to attack me or to pin the pawn. If I go to h8, then knight h4 might be a little bit annoying. And guys, this is what happens when you do f5 when the center is not locked. Your opponent could use those lines to attack the king. So let's see how this goes. I know that knight h4 is not safe because the queen's there, but still in the future it could be problematic. All right, e4 trying to get rid of the weak pawn and leave me with one, so that's not going to happen. At least not today, my friend. So f4 has to happen. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so nope, not safe. So how do I remove my knight? Well, maybe knight b6, hitting the bishop. But I really want to bring my knight to the king side. Now, if I move the knight, I'm able to do bishop g4, and that's what I want. But let's see. All right, let me do knight b6. It's like they don't really care about those bishops. Well, let me do queen e7. Guys, I'm doing, look, queen e7, there are a few reasons for it. Number one, I do not want to be on the same file as that rook. It could be safe now, but at some point it could get me in trouble. So if I could avoid that, excellent. Number two, I'm ready here to do something like knight takes bishop and followed by bishop e6 in case the queen is the one that retakes. And also, when I do queen e7, if one of these two leaves, I could do a fork. I could do queen c5 and adding another attacker on the bishop. So anyways, queen e7 makes sense here. Now bishop e3, fine. And now look at this. We got to the middle game. I got this pawn here. I know that it's a little bit fixed. My bishop is blocked, but this pawn is giving us a lot of space on the king side. And we even have this file to put pressure on that king. So I could do rook lift, rook rollover, or I could do bishop e6, developing my bishop, and that way my rooks could go to g8. All right. Now that knight is obviously coming here, but that's fine. Now, is it safe for me to do this right now? Well, let me just do it. I think it makes sense, guys. We have to do it. Okay. Now, queen c6, I'm protecting the pawn and attacking the knight. Oof, they want the knight to stay there. Okay, what if we do this? Take. Huh, okay. I have to be careful with this pawn, but I'm thinking bishop f8, if they take, I take with the check, then queen takes, I'm attacking the knight. So is that what I want? Now the other thing would be maybe just bishop f6 and double up my rooks on the g file. That would be really nice actually. Or I also have ideas of queen g6. So I know that I could really do develop a really strong attack on the g file, but do I have the time? Well, takes. Well, let me just try doing this. So bishop f6. Now I like bishop f6 also that I'm keeping my bishop 2 squares away from that knight. So the knight is going to be under control. This knight seems to be under control. I don't think this rook could go anywhere because the knight's here as well as the queen. So this might give me enough time to create something. Yeah. Now a4, a5 might be something. No, they're being careful. So let me just start doubling up my rooks. Guys, again, just like in the other game, it's the same ideas. 2 completely different games, but we have the pawn structure that we're paying attention to, and we're doubling up the rooks. All right, so they're doing the same thing. Now, do I want to take and trade my rooks for the queen? Well, we learned already on lesson, I think 65, that 2 rooks could be better than the queen, so we don't want to do that right now. What if we do bishop? Nah, it's not going to happen. Well, what can we do now here? Bishop e7, not simple. Guys, I could do knight a4, trying to remove this knight, but I'm not sure that's what I need. If I could reroute this knight, maybe here, nah. Well, I could do knight c8 and then b6, kicking this knight out. Now, what I didn't like about knight a4 is that after we trade, it's true that I've removed this powerful knight, but it's also true that I'm going to leave my queen outside of the action and I need my queen able to transfer to the king side. Ooh, that's something else. I could move my bishop. Let me just do, look, knight c8, we're rerouting the knight. From here, the knight could go to e7, g6, h4, or I could do c8, d6, and from there I'm putting pressure on e4. I could go to c4, which is a weak square. So these are possibilities for my knight. But immediately after knight c8, I might just do b6 to kick this guy out of here. So let me do knight c8. And unless I'm missing something, I should be fine. Okay, see, immediately they're putting pressure on e5. Yeah, it looks like I made a mistake. Did I make a mistake? Well, what if we do b6? Okay, knight d7, putting pressure on the bishop, so we cannot take on c3. Well, guys, it looks like we made a mistake here. Did we? Well, how about this? What if we just do rook takes pawn, queen takes, rook takes, king takes, and then bishop g7. Well, at that point, we're going to have queen c3. So again, I'm going to be giving my rooks away from the queen. All of this pressure is going to be released, but I don't think I have anything else here. I think knight c8, it has to be a mistake. I don't think that was the most accurate move. Maybe I got a little bit ahead of myself there. So anyways, let's go with this. Let's see if it makes sense. And now definitely I need to move my bishop. Yep. Now he's going to take. That's a fact. We're going to take. Now, rook on the 7th rank. Yep, that was going to happen. Now, knight d6 is important, guys. I need to break this connection between the two rooks. Then maybe I could do, I could take the pawn too, but, well, no, let me just, look, the reason why I don't want to take that pawn is because this is not consistent with the spirit of this position. There are a lot of pieces on the board, queen versus rooks. It's all about attacking. Both kings are a little bit delicate. So it has to be about bringing pieces, coordinating your pieces to attack. So that pawn is the last thing that we need now, because this game might not even get to the end game. So let me just bring the knight over, hitting e4. Okay, I think I'm going to take, yeah, so I take the pawn by hitting the rook. Now, oof, I almost get this. Now look at this. If my bishop were not pinned, I could take the knight. But I'm also thinking, what if I go, ooh, no, it doesn't make sense. So let me see, they're attacking here. Well, that's not really an attack. If they take the knight, I could do check with a fork and I get that rook. So that's not something I'm concerned with. What if I do knight g5, then knight takes, pawn takes. Well, that might be what I want. Or knight f6. All right, guys, so there's so many options here. This is, again, a good point to just take a few minutes and make sure that we get the right move. So candidate moves are knight g5, knight f6, hitting this rook, or queen b4, but I don't think this move is consistent. I could also think of moving the king, but nah, that's not what we want. So let me just do knight g5. Okay, b5, well, I don't think that's what they needed right now. But to be fair, okay, take. Now I have to be careful with this move that's coming. Guys, my bishop is pinned, and I do not want the rook's double tap putting pressure on it. So let me get my king out of that pin, or my bishop out of that pin. Can I block? Yep. Now I pinned myself again, but I see that they cannot put pressure on it. Now let me do queen c4. I'm attacking here. I'm attacking here. Ooh, no. If I go queen c4, fork, because remember, my bishop is pinned. So what if I just did this? Yeah. Attacking the rook. Now he's attacking me. And that knight seems to be taking care of everything. Unbelievable. Well, maybe it's time for us to do... Well, I have to be careful now with even this check. What can I do? Well, queen e3. I don't think that's going to do much. Takes. Alright, guys, so look, I'm thinking of queen e3 followed by h5, h4, h3. That's my way to do something about that knight. That knight is keeping everything together. So I could do that. I could do queen b4, trying to go after the pawn, queen a5. But again, pawns is not what I need. I need to create some complications. Right, they took. They keep taking. Oh, come on. They're not giving me a break. All right, so it could, after all, it could be about... All right, let me just go here now. All right, guys, so I'm trying to go queen e8, trying to enter through a different line. So queen e8, check. If I go here, I'm attacking the knight and the pawn. Am I missing anything? Nope. Okay, check. Now look, pass pawn immediately. Check. If I do this, take. Nope. Okay. Oof. This is so tricky, guys. If I go here, then this is a skewer. If I go here, check. Oh, I could take with a check. Okay. So this is the move then. So I'm thinking if I go here, they could do a discovered attack on the queen. But I just take with a check. So that might be my way out. Okay, a4. It's like they just don't care. Now this move, no, that would be getting myself into trouble. All right, guys, so look at this. If I do king here, what are the checks that they have? Remember, if they do check successfully, they're going to get my queen. But if I do this move, oh, this is the move. This is the move. So if I take it, they take anyways. If I take here, they take anyways. Yeah, and my queen has no way out. This is a very, very interesting position. If I go here, the same thing. Wow, so I don't have any way out? So maybe here, in order to, so I need to get my king out of here. That's the only way for me to actually win this game. So I'm thinking moving the bishop, but I need to be careful because they could do this. So I need to move the bishop like maybe here or here, then get the king out, and only then the queen can get here. This is really, really nice. Well, I have to do it. Okay, so I get my king. Oh, you see, this was a mistake. I should have done bishop maybe here. That way when I move the king, my bishop is not blocked. But it is what it is. Okay, you see, now this bishop is not able to do anything. Unbelievable. Okay, if I do this move, it should be fine. Okay, there's no check, no nothing. If I do h3. Again, guys, I need to activate pieces, so that's not what I want. Get away from here. Yeah, so I'm moving the king just to activate this bishop. That's what I need. And of course, trying not to get checked by the knight. Okay, they are activating, fine. Now, bishop f6. Let me see. Yep. 2 squares away from the knight. I don't want that knight to do anything. They're going after this guy. Let me see. All right, if they take this pawn, that's it. These pawns are going to be gone and not much I could do. Well, what if I do this now? Okay, that's a check. Now I'm going after, nope, I cannot go after it. Well, I could technically. I could go after the rook, but then another check. Well, let's do it. Now I'm going to go, guys, I could go back here, but I think that if I do this move and they take the bishop, I have check, check, and I collect the knight. Right? Yeah. Okay, so check, check. Now, see, they go here so that when I take, then I'm not putting them in check. All right, guys, so very interesting endgame. Queen and 2 rooks. Ooh, is that a fork? Yeah, they block. Oh, no. The rooks are connected. All right, so then I guess we push. Okay, let me get out of here. And now, look at this. The rooks are not connected anymore, so I'm looking for forks. This would be a nice fork. So let me see if I can get that rook to move out of the way. He got away with a check. Come on. Okay. Made a mistake there. I should have taken that pawn maybe right away. All right. Any good forks? Well, let me try check. Check. And nope, that's it. Okay, guys, if they had done this check, I could just get out of it. I should be fine. Now, most likely this is going to be a draw unless one of us makes a silly mistake. Oh no, I'm in check. All right. Well, I cannot let them skewer me or anything like that, or fork. And I think this is going to take care of it. Okay, check. Check. Yeah, I think this is going to be 3-4 repetition. Happy to make it a draw. All right, guys, so this game was a draw. Definitely lots of mistakes on my end. It will be interesting to review the game. But anyways, notice how the game started with like a King's Indian defense, but then knight b to d2, c3, pawn to e3, pawn to e4, huge mistake. I should have done better to capitalize on it. So I think this game is a perfect example. Maybe I should have done e5 right away and keep it simple. Maybe this is a perfect example for you to see when not to do f5. You see, I think f5 was probably not the most accurate plan here. So maybe it was a better idea to keep the pawn structure like that and try to capitalize on the double pawns. So anyways, guys, I hope that you found value in these games as well. We're not going to do this in a while. We have to go back to learning a few new things. But like always, we're going to talk in the comments. Let me know any questions you might have, any suggestions. I'm pretty sure you're going to find a lot of moves that I missed, just like in the other lesson. So again, I'll talk to you guys in the comments.